All right, a warm welcome back from the weekend, everyone. I am Bosin Amafaye, and this is your Money Moves.
And I am Melissa Enoch. It's Monday, September the 15th. We thank you all for joining us on the show at this time.
All right, thank you, everyone. Let's get started with Nigeria's inflation data coming in today from the Statistics Office, printing 21.12% year on year for the month of August. According to NBS data, that was lower, slightly lower than 21.88%, which the CPI printed in the month of July. According to Bloomberg estimate, economists were predicting Nigeria's inflation to be around 21.6%, but that what came in was much lower, 20.12%. And that's according to the latest numbers just about an hour or so ago. That's Nigeria's latest inflation. We expect more data from a number of economies around Africa this week. Let's move on into our first story. In Botswana, the president, Duma Boko, has appointed a Nigerian banker, Farouk Gumel, as the chairman of the newly founded Sovereign Wealth Fund. Of course, the multi-billion-dollar fund was designed by Botswana to diversify the economy away from diamonds. Farouk Gumel, who shares Union Bank of Nigeria PLC, and of course the vice chairman of the TGI Group, was the immediate past chairman of Nigeria's Sovereign Investment Authority, the NSIA. His appointment was announced during the official launch of the Botswana's new Sovereign Wealth Fund just a few days ago. All right, in Southern Africa, Namibia is doubling down on its new oil, gas, and hydrogen sector. Friday, the country kicked off a three-day conference that seeks to put local industries to support what you call the local content development of the emerging multi-billion-dollar energy sector. Now, let's take a soundbite on that.
The policy that is placed before you is for your input. It's our national framework to ensure that our people, our businesses, and our communities benefit directly from Namibia's petroleum resources. What is the National Upstream Petroleum Local Content Policy? I would like to explain to you in simple terms that this is a policy that is geared to ensure that Namibians are not left out and not left behind by the opportunities that are availed by the discoveries of the oil in the country. Therefore, government, through this policy, is calling for oil companies to employ Namibians. They must train and develop our young people. They must source goods and services from Namibian businesses and our local companies. They must also transfer knowledge and technology to our people. It is therefore ensuring that the wealth from oil flows into our homes, into our schools, into our clinics, and into our communities where it matters most.
All right, that's speaking on the Namibia's local content and oil and gas industry. Let's get more on today's news now from Melissa. Melissa standing by the archives. Melissa, hi there.
Hello there, Wilson, and thank you very much. In other business news, the government of Zimbabwe is looking to build the country's largest integrated sugar complex in partnership with the Platinum Crest Agro of India. The new venture is a $170 million project, which was sealed at the India-Africa Summit recently, which was held in New Delhi. The agro-processing project will start with a 3,500 tons sugar plant, which is expandable to 10,000 tons and is expected to create jobs, boost agriculture output, and deepen India-Zimbabwe's trade relations. In Algeria, the President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has appointed Sifi Greb as the country's new prime minister. Greb was Algeria's former Minister of Industry and has been in acting capacity since the dismissal of Nader Labawi last month. The cabinet reshuffle also saw the appointment of Murad Ajal as the country's new energy and renewable energy minister. Ajal previously served as the CEO of the state power company Sonel Gaz. Algeria is looking to diversify its economy and amid social and economic challenges, and recently hosted the Intra-Africa Trade Fair 2025. in technology news, MTN South Africa has announced a strategic partnership with Bango to power subscription bundling through digital vending machine, or DVM. The deal will give MTN's 39 million customers seamless access to leading subscription services, with super bundling expected to drive customer retention. The Bango DVM will enable MTN to scale across multiple markets, launch new offers faster, and provide flexible bundles that match the changing needs of South African customers. Finally, on News Now, a new instant payment system that promises to be seamless and interoperable for financial transactions across 8 countries in West Africa is due to be launched on September 30. The central bank for the 8 French-speaking West African states is floating the long-awaited regional payments platform as part of efforts to ease transactions and deepen market integration. I am Melissa Enoch, and that's it on News Now for today. Stick around for our markets round with Posing at the Ticker Tape Room after the break.
This annual gathering represents not just a meeting of minds, but a powerful platform for important debate on the future of our country. A future where energy security and sustainability are within reach.
African countries account for almost 20% of the global population, but only for 4% of the world's total energy investment. Now, this imbalance should be ringing an alarm bell for all of us.
Our priority must continue to be to end energy poverty for all Africans, as well as create an enabling environment where the oil and gas industry can thrive, be beneficial for local content, as well as be responsible with the environment.
Visit www.aecweek.com to register today. The African Energy Week, it's more than just a conference.
annual gathering represents not just a meeting of minds, but a powerful platform for important debate on the future of our country. A future where energy security and sustainability are within reach.
African countries account for almost 20% of the global population, but only for 4% of the world's total energy investment. Now, this imbalance should be ringing an alarm bell for all of us.
Our priority must continue to be to end energy poverty for all Africans, as well as create an enabling environment where the oil and gas industry can thrive, be beneficial for local content, as well as be responsible with the environment.
Visit www.aecweek.com to register today. The African Energy Week.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the show. That's your Money Moves Monday, the 15th of September. Okay, let's go into the market. How does the money moves the markets across Africa as we get started into the third business week in the month of September? Let's check on the equity side. Of course, you got Nigeria's economic data. Inflation trended lower in the month of August. That's the latest we got about an hour and a half ago. The CPI printing 20.12%. Take that to the market, and you can see on the board 0.79%, a very big start to the new week on the Nigeria's NGX. That's the equity side, 141,700. Then, of course, you look at the rest of the dashboard and you see a few gains to start the brand new week, with the exception of the Moroccan stock market. The MESI printing 19,717, down by 0.56. The South African market was a flattish Monday, 104,455, despite some other numbers we'll see on the markets for South Africa. The CEMDEX was up by 0.25%. That's another big jump. The PFVM was roughly flattish in West Africa for the composite, 321.71. The Nairobi market, equities market, was nearing 180 new psychological index reading. The composite 0.18%. The EGX was up 0.15%, at the rest of the North Africa and the Arabian markets opened today for the week, with a lot of inflow into the Egyptian market. So that's about it on the equities. Zimbabwe stock market fell by 0.38%, 207.59. Or 39 for today. Let's just push that aside and bring on the government 10-year paper. And I'm sure you can see South Africa's 10-year paper printing single-digit 9.22%. That's down 1.23%, according to data from investing.com. 1318 GMT. That's when those numbers were put together. That's some good news for South Africa as we look at South Africa's inflation. And of course, what that means for the South Africa's Reserve Bank interest rate decision on Thursday this week, September the 18th. So keep that in mind. That's to be very closely watched. Take that off and let's look at the currencies. You also saw the South African rand printing 17.32 against the US dollar. That's 0.36%. That's positive news as well for South Africa. How much headroom that gives the Sergio Kagango and the rest of his team at the MPC, 7-member MPC on Thursday. We're following that very closely. We'll report that for you here on Money Moves. Frontier Africa reports also. Keep that in mind. What else do I have on that currency board? Egyptian pound printing 0.06 on the US dollar. The Nigerian currency recovered also very strongly today, around 1350 GMT, posting 0.12% on the dollar, 1,539. The central bank is also pushing. So will all of these give the room for Yemi Cardoso, the central bank governor, and the rest of the Monetary Policy Committee to cut interest rates anytime soon? That's also been considered. Let's move on to the commodity space. And again, you've called the story. Ukraine launched nearly 400 drones against Russia's oil facilities overnight, over the weekend. That raised oil prices, but sticking around the $60 handle. The Brent around 67.17, the US WTI around 62.98, and of course, to see the numbers. Then, of course, there are threats from President Trump on President Putin, the Russian president, further threats if some countries continue to do business as far as oil is concerned with Russian oil on a vessel on the waters around the Middle East is also being questioned today. So you've got a whole lot to consider as far as oil prices concerned. Then you've got supply glut expected in the market as OPEC plus the G8 within the OPEC decided to bring additional barrels of oil, thousands of barrels of oil back into the market in September. So all of that in play today. So, but oil prices moving up more on those attacks on Russian oil refineries by Ukraine. 367 drones were launched overnight, over the weekend. Let's get out of the oil market and move into further commodity space. Resources, gold, that's what you're looking at right now. 0.02%. The bullion shining slightly lower at a $3,685 per ounce. And you look at copper, that's a new high, 4.61, 0.29% in the positive. Iron ore doing 105.43, around 1305 GMT today, 0.24%. Platinum sticking around the 1,400 level by 0.67% in the negative territory. Let me finish up around the soft commodities. You can see the price of coffee. Now we've crossed the $400, as it were, for that very important commodity. This well consumed. Now we're getting summer out of the way. We're getting into the winter season from October and November. So everyone's going to be concerned much of coffee consumption. That's 4.78% to the upside. That's very sticky to the upside. That means your price of coffee in the Western Hemisphere, in the US, in Europe, is getting higher. Then, of course, the 50% tariff by President Trump on coffee imports into the United States is also hitting on coffee prices. So this is good news, however, for major coffee exporters, Robusta, Vietnam, Brazil, as it were. Of course, the Brazilian economy also having its own key issues as we speak right now, and of course the political issues around the what you call the corruption charges and coup d'etat charges against former President Bolsonaro. So all of that in place. So what else am I looking at? Cotton, around 66.51, down by 0.48%. Palm oil sticking around $1,042 per metric ton, a flattish Monday. Then, of course, cocoa prices, 1.78%. Cocoa prices per metric ton beginning to head back towards 8,000, as it were. But again, you've got to look at the interplay of weather conditions and supply from major exporters such as Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, of course, the world's #1 cocoa exporter, accounting for about 40% or so of the global cocoa output. What does that mean for cocoa? What does that mean for chocolate? What does that mean for chocolate drinks and other derivatives of chocolate, of cocoa? Is anyone's guess. So let's keep all that in mind. Again, we'll come back again here on Money Moves tomorrow, Tuesday, the 16th of September, and continue from here. So keep your eyes on the market. From me and the rest of the team at the FMDQ studios here in Lagos, this is your Frontier Africa Reports. This is your Money Moves Monday. I'll see you soon.